This episode of London Real is sponsored by X-Brain. If you live in Europe or the UK, get all of your favorite Onnit products like Alpha Brain, Shroom Tech Sport, even the Bulletproof Coffee from X-Brain. You get it in a matter of days, no foreign exchange, no customs, no problem. Go to xbrain.co.uk and check it out.
The David Shayler thing, actually, you've pinpointed the thing that I'm most... to this day, I can't work out. It's this kind of strange chapter towards the end of the Psychopath Test where it does feel like it's taken an odd turn. And I'm still, kind of, for me, the jury is still slightly out about whether that was right to be in the book or not.
It seemed reasonable at the time when I was reading it,
Yeah.
and then I couldn't figure out what it was doing there after the fact.
Well, I can tell you what it was doing there. And it's that, and it sort of answers the previous question about whether I do think the psychopaths rule the world. What I began to realise was that in becoming a trained psychopath spotter, it had sort of turned me a little bit psychopathic. I was spotting psychopaths everywhere. I was like shoving everybody into a box marked psychopath. And I was trying to reduce everybody to their maddest edges. It was a really, it was a kind of it was kind of morally problematic.
Who've you spotted?
Well, you mentioned A.A. Gill earlier, classic psychopath.
Who is that, by the way? Is he a critic?
He's the Times literary critic. So
yeah.
Okay.
I don't, I've never actually seen him, but I sort of picture him as
he's a dandy.
fascist.
Yeah.
So did you take like a few months after the book was finished where your psychopath radar kind of eased off a little bit?
Well, no, it happened in the book actually. It was like it was a sort of moment for me because the first thing I did after becoming a professional, well, I wouldn't say professional, but certainly certified, because I have a certificate of attendance, psychopath spotter, was instead of thinking, will I put these powers to philanthropic good, I thought, no, what I'll do is think about all the people in my past who have crossed me to see which of them I could out as psychopaths. So obviously the first was A.A. Gill, who he'd just written this column in the Sunday Times saying that he'd shot a baboon on safari because, like all of us, he wondered what it'd be like to shoot a person, which is classic psychopath. Plus he gives all my television documentaries very bad reviews, which is classic psychopath.
Yeah.
Actually, I put some of this in the book, and then I bumped into him at an awards ceremony about a year later, and he came bounding up to me, and he said, I hear you put me in your book. I would never sue another journalist. And I said, you know how you said you once shot a baboon on safari because, like all of us, you wondered what it'd be like to shoot a person. I said, that's not all of us. It's not a normal thing to think. It's just you. And he said, well, you don't hunt, so you wouldn't understand. So I said, I sell more books than you do.
Classic psychopath thing to say.
No. What that actually means is that I won.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, so I became this sort of chronic, because I actually have no evidence that A.A. Gill's a psychopath. So, but I became like drunk with my psychopath spotting powers. And then I realised at one point that this is something that journalists do a lot. We utilise the maddest edges of somebody's personality, and then we kind of stitch them together, leave the normal stuff on the floor, and create this sort of slightly grotesque version of people. And it's what so much journalism is based on. And it's not, it's something that we don't like to talk about, but we know it's true, and we know it's a bit odd. So the reason I put the David Shayler chapter in there was because I wanted to write a story about that very point, about how when David Shayler...
Who is he, by the way?
Okay, it's in itself an amazing story. He's an former MI5 spy, became a whistleblower, went to prison for whistleblowing, then came out as like a leader of the conspiracy, the 9/11 conspiracy movement, and got written about an awful lot. And then came out again and said he was the son of God, and it sort of dropped off. The chapters, it's about looking for the right sort of madness. It's like, why did one sort of madness be entertaining for everybody, and another sort of madness became a little bit sort of sad for people? So I was trying to dissect why journalists utilise certain sorts of madness for the purposes of entertaining people, whereas other sorts of madness are a bit too scary or feel too exploitative to write about It was a section of the book which I called The Right Sort of Madness. I don't know if I've explained myself properly, but
No,
I think you have. No, I think that's interesting what you say about journalists, especially you being one of them. How you do take those pieces out of people.
And then when you realise that it's not the right thing to do, because it's not, what do you then do about it? How do you then continue to tell good stories about people when you're deliberately not caricaturing them, and you're deliberately trying to bring the normal stuff, the empathetic, human, ordinary stuff back into the story? So that's...
But does that sell?
Well,
or does it have to be done in the exact perfect way?
Yeah, it doesn't always sell. This is the problem. You see, I made this documentary a few years ago about the Alpha Course, which is teaching agnostics how to become Christians, and I was so careful to make everybody in it seem lovely. And no one watched it. No one liked it. But I think I've reached a really good place now where I can write about people in a way that doesn't humiliate them whatsoever. It's full rounded human character portraits. Doesn't shy away from putting in people's absurdities, but it's always, what's always at the heart of this is the realization that we're all absurd. And if we put ourselves above them, then we're lying to ourselves. And now I feel like I've actually managed to do all that in a way that people also want to read.